I see more good people convict themselves out of politeness than any piece of physical evidence ever could.
The thing you need to know is what you must do and nothing more legally.
They've been taught how they ask questions and when they ask questions make a big difference in the type of responses they get.
Sound insane? It absolutely is, but unfortunately it happens a lot.
The police have a job to do. Their job is to gather evidence. Your job is to go home to your family. Those two jobs are often in conflict.
Here's what you need to watch out for when the police are asking you questions.
A police officer is walking toward your car right now. His hand is resting near his belt. He leans down to your window and asks one simple question. Do you have any weapons in this vehicle? What comes out of your mouth in the next 3 seconds will determine whether you drive home tonight or end up in handcuffs. And here's the terrifying part. Almost every gun owner in America gets this moment completely wrong. There's a specific 5-word response that criminal defense attorneys desperately wish their clients had used before calling them from a jail cell. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly what those words are, why they work, and how they could save you from a felony charge that destroys your life. But first, you need to understand why the way you've been taught to handle this situation is actually setting you up for disaster. Most gun owners believe that honesty is their best policy during a traffic stop. They think if they're polite, cooperative, and tell the officer everything, things will go smoothly. That belief has sent thousands of innocent, law-abiding citizens into courtrooms fighting charges they never saw coming. The criminal justice system doesn't reward honesty the way you think it does. It rewards silence. Here's what happens to your brain when a police officer asks about weapons. Your heart rate spikes, adrenaline floods your system, you start thinking 1,000 thoughts at once. Should I tell him? Will he think I'm dangerous if I say yes? Am I lying if I say no? In that panicked state, something predictable happens. You start talking, and you don't stop. Let me walk you through a scenario that plays out on American highways every single day. A responsible gun owner is driving home from the shooting range. His legally owned handgun is secured in the center console. Everything is completely above board. He gets pulled over for something minor. A broken tail light, maybe he was going 7 miles over the limit. No big deal, right? The officer approaches and asks the weapons question. Our gun owner, trying to be helpful, says something like this. Yes, sir, I do have a handgun in my console. I've got my carry permit right here. It's not loaded. Well, actually, the magazine is inserted, but there's no round in the chamber. I was just coming back from the range. I'm a law-abiding citizen. I'm not looking for any trouble. That response sounds reasonable, it sounds cooperative, it sounds like exactly what a good citizen should say. It's also a legal minefield that just exploded under his feet. In that single breath, he gave the officer 12 separate pieces of information that weren't requested. Every single sentence created a potential trap. Maybe he said the gun was unloaded but forgot that in his state, an inserted magazine legally counts as loaded. Now he's given a false statement to law enforcement. Maybe his permit expired 3 weeks ago and he forgot to renew it. Now he's just admitted to carrying illegally. Maybe there's a round in the chamber he forgot about from his last range session. Now his statement about no round in the chamber looks like a deliberate lie. This is why defense attorneys practically beg their clients to stop talking during police encounters. Every word is ammunition that can be used against you later. Here's what most people fundamentally misunderstand about their rights during a traffic stop. The Fifth Amendment doesn't disappear just because you have a gun permit. You don't surrender your constitutional protections the moment an officer asks you a question. Those rights exist specifically for moments like this. The question isn't whether you have the right to remain silent, you absolutely do. The question is whether you're smart enough to use it. When police officers ask about weapons during a traffic stop, they're operating under what's called a Terry stop framework. This comes from a landmark 1968 Supreme Court case that established when officers can conduct a pat-down search. The legal standard requires that an officer reasonably believes someone is both armed and dangerous. Pay close attention to that word, and. Having a legal firearm doesn't automatically make you dangerous. But here's the critical insight. Once you confirm you're armed, the officer only needs to decide whether you seem dangerous based on your behavior and your words. Now, before we get to those 5 words, there's something crucial you need to know about your specific state. Approximately 8 states in America have what are called duty to inform laws. In these states, places like Ohio, Texas, and Louisiana, you're legally required to tell an officer you're carrying a weapon without being asked. If you live in one of these states, you must follow that law. But even then, there's a right way and a catastrophically wrong way to do it. In the other 40-plus states, you have absolutely zero legal obligation to volunteer that information. None whatsoever. But most gun owners don't actually know which category their state falls into. They assume they're required to tell. So they start talking, and that's where everything falls apart.
But you have no obligation to give answers. So you can simply say, I don't wish to answer any questions.
Don't try to debate the law on the side of the road. Don't tell them, I know the law, you can't do this. Just ask if you're free to go.
If a police officer walks up and starts talking with you, the very first thing anyone should say is, am I free to leave?
Should say no, and they can't do anything about you saying no unless they could otherwise establish probable cause.
Let me tell you about a concealed carrier in Pennsylvania who learned this lesson the hard way. Pennsylvania has no duty to inform law. This man got pulled over for a minor speeding violation. When the officer asked about weapons, he volunteered that he had a pistol in his waistband. The officer's demeanor changed immediately. He ordered the driver out of the vehicle. During the process of removing the gun, the officer claimed the driver made a suspicious movement. Backup was called. Within minutes, this law-abiding gun owner was face down on the pavement with his hands cuffed behind his back. They searched his entire vehicle. They found nothing illegal because there was nothing illegal to find. But now this man has trauma from the experience and thousands of dollars in attorney fees to fight charges that never should have existed, all because he gave information he wasn't legally required to provide. So what should you say instead? Here are the 5 words that could save your freedom. I don't answer questions. That's it. 5 words. Simple, direct, completely legal, and devastatingly effective. Now, before you think this sounds confrontational or rude, let me explain why this response actually protects everyone involved, including the officer. First, you're not being disrespectful. You're not saying, that's none of your business, or screaming about your rights. You're simply calmly exercising your constitutional protection against self-incrimination. The Supreme Court of the United States has affirmed repeatedly that you have the right to decline answering questions during police encounters. Using that right isn't suspicious, it's smart. Second, and this is absolutely critical, you're not lying. If you say no when you actually have a weapon, you've potentially committed a crime. If you say yes and start explaining, you've opened a door that can never be closed. But if you simply decline to answer, you haven't made any statement that can be proven false. You've drawn a clean legal line. Third, you're protecting your future self. Every word you speak during a police encounter becomes potential evidence. Prosecutors can take statements you made at 9 o'clock at night on a dark highway and present them to a jury months later, completely stripped of context. By limiting what you say, you're limiting what can be used against you. After you deliver those 5 words, the officer will likely respond in one of several ways. He might try the friendly approach, saying something like, I'm just trying to make sure we're both safe here. Your response stays the same. Keep your hands visible on the steering wheel at 10 and 2. Stay calm. Say, I understand, officer. I don't answer questions. Then wait. Don't fidget. Don't elaborate. Just wait in silence. He might try the pressure approach. Are you refusing to cooperate with me? This is designed to make you feel like you're doing something wrong. But here's the truth. Exercising your Fifth Amendment right is not refusing to cooperate. You respond, I'm cooperating fully, officer. I'm just not answering questions.
Being polite means not shouting and not fighting physically. It does not mean waiving your constitutional rights just to make a stranger happy.
That doesn't mean you have to give them the information that you're looking for. It is perfectly acceptable to say, I'm not answering your questions.
Why are you being like this? I just want to talk to you. Oh, you got something to hide? Who knows what they're going to say? This is America. They can say whatever they want.
Memorize the script. Am I free to go? It's the most powerful sentence in the English language.
Here's what might surprise you. In the vast majority of traffic stops, the officer will simply move on. They'll run your license, write your ticket or warning, and send you on your way. Why? Because most traffic stops are routine. The officer isn't building a criminal case, they're doing their job. If you're calm, polite, and non-threatening, most officers will respect your right to remain silent and continue with the stop without incident. For those of you in duty to inform states, the strategy adjusts slightly, but the principle remains identical. When the officer approaches, before they even ask, you hand them your license, registration, and concealed carry permit together. You say, Officer, I'm required to inform you that I have a valid concealed carry permit and I'm currently armed. Then you stop talking immediately. Hands back on the wheel, wait for instructions. If the officer asks follow-up questions like, where's the gun? Or, is it loaded? You respond, I prefer not to answer questions, but I'll follow your instructions for everyone's safety. You've acknowledged their legitimate safety concern, you've offered compliance with their commands, but you haven't volunteered details that could be twisted later. There's a critical distinction that confuses many people. You can remain silent about questions while still providing required documents. In every state, you must show your ID and proof of insurance during a traffic stop. That's not self-incrimination, that's following traffic law. Hand over those documents when asked. But when questions start, questions about where you're going, what you're doing, whether you have weapons, You return to those 5 words. The officer might try various tactics to get you talking. The rapport-building approach. Hey, I'm a gun guy too, just want to make sure we're on the same page. Don't fall for it. I appreciate that, officer, but I don't answer questions. The intimidation approach. This will go a lot easier if you just cooperate. Stay calm. I am cooperating, officer. I'm just not answering questions. Here's something defense attorneys know that most gun owners don't. You cannot talk your way out of an arrest, but you can absolutely talk your way into one. Cases are won or lost based on what defendants said to police before they ever spoke to a lawyer. Staying silent dramatically increases your chances of a favorable outcome if anything goes wrong. You are a law-abiding gun owner exercising your constitutional rights. Those two things don't conflict. You can respect law enforcement and protect yourself legally at the same time. You can be cooperative and compliant without volunteering information that could destroy your life. Remember the formula: hands visible at all times, tone respectful and calm, words minimal and deliberate. If you're in a duty to inform state, fulfill that legal requirement with the minimum necessary information, then stop. If you're not in such a state, you have zero obligation to say anything about weapons. 0. When they ask about weapons, you now know exactly what to say. When they ask follow-up questions, you know what to say. And when the encounter is over, if anything concerning happened, you call an attorney before speaking to law enforcement again. Those 5 words, I don't answer questions, aren't a sign of guilt. They're a sign that you understand how the legal system actually works and you're protecting yourself within it. The officers who respect constitutional rights will respect your use of them, and for those who don't, you'll be grateful you didn't give them ammunition to use against you. That's it for today, folks. See you in the next video. This content is educational information about constitutional rights and is not legal advice. Laws vary significantly by state and individual circumstances differ. Always consult with a qualified attorney in your jurisdiction before making legal decisions.